Today, I'm here to answer the question of why is Seer the 6th highest win rate hero of not only this month, but also this recent week. This was a hero I thought has been irrelevant or even terrible for quite a while now. So why is Seer all of a sudden one of the best offlaners, if not the best offlaner for pubs this patch? Really, his only main contender in terms of win rate is Underlord, and that hero is just brain dead. But yeah, why is Seer, a hero that is typically way too hard to play, which really hurts his ability to have a high win rate, thriving? Well, we're going to be following Seb, the TI winner here today, and picking apart every little thing that he does correct that you need to do in your games as well to increase your win rate, snowball in the offlane, and carry your games. So yeah, if you guys want to, break the like button, and so we can make the like button absolutely broken. But alright, also guys, sub to the GameLeap website. Want to know why you should? Because I can't pay rent this month. That's the only reason. If there was another reason, such as quality content that we post there every single day by top tier pros that's going to help you get to the next level, then maybe I would tell you that. But that's not the case, right? It's really not the case. So getting into the Seer gameplay, it's very important to understand that Seb is running the old Seer build. You want to start with 3 tangos, a salve, a sage's mask, 2 mangoes, and a clarity. Following that up, you want to shell your first creep of the wave very early on. Let's see exactly when Seb does it here. Now it's bugged, these creeps are not currently shelled. Thank you, Dota replay system. But he shells one up about at the tier 1 tower when they're slightly behind. Then he pops his clarity just to guarantee that he's going to be full mana when the lane starts. Pops the second one when it's around this tree. Right on the other side of it would apply as well. And now the lane is going to shove in. And what this guarantees is that you can cut the next wave. Now, cutting it depends. You're going to see how he cuts it. We'll talk about it, but then really all you're doing here is just trying to secure the creeps. Really nothing insane, nothing revolutionary. Don't try to reinvent the wheel there, but because you've shoved in the wave with 2 ion shells, you still have full mana because of the clarity, and now you can drag or cut the next wave. This disruptor is playing very well right now and is completely bullying the Pango, and that is why I want to talk about my next point, which is when you pick Seer, what hero should you pick him with? Pango's pretty good. In fact, in the mid game, Pango is fantastic. Right, Vacuum plus Pango's ulti and just spells in general is incredible. However, it's not as good in the lane. Still pretty strong when Pango and Seer get some levels, but at level 1, it's not nearly as good. Better level 1 heroes are Treant with an Orb of Venom, and most importantly, in my opinion, Clockwork. I think Clockwork with Seer in the laning stage is absolutely broken. The next thing that Seb does here to actually catch the wave is he shells this middle creep. So keep in mind, guys, if you think the wave is getting away from you and you won't be able to aggro it, after cutting the wave, you can use this little trick to drag the wave to you. Unfortunately, one creep de-aggroed, but all Seb is going to do now is walk in this direction so that he can block this camp, right? It's going to spawn at the 1 minute mark. It's going to block that camp and walk it off, right? It's a tango, and it's going to take a lot of damage, but this is going to prevent the future pull, which is exactly what Seb needs, and he's going to drag the camp all the way to here. Now, you might be asking Speed, why didn't he drag it up this hill, around, through the back, into here, like most players do? Well, he had to stop and wait and block this camp. If you do it efficiently enough where you can walk to the left, sometimes you can pull it here anyway, but in this case, he didn't feel like he would make it, so instead he compensates and bring the wave right here, which in this case is even better. There's actually another reason that I didn't mention, and what that is Seb only had 2 creeps remaining, right? He also ion shielded one, so one of the creeps straight up died. And therefore, if he dragged this wave here, it wouldn't even do that much. Right? It wouldn't be that effective. He couldn't actually deny the wave, which is typically what you do when you cut 4 creeps. Now, the next thing that we see, and a big change here, is the fact that Seb takes Vacuum. Now, Vacuum is a 60-second cooldown, 60 mana spell that does 100 damage. And that's the most important thing to note. It's a low mana spell. Now sure, it does have a high cooldown, but it's a low mana spell with high damage. So what you can do is you can use it to pull people into a battery assault if you have a Clockwork. You can pull someone into multiple ion shells, or, funny enough, you can actually use it to secure range creeps, which is what Seb does there. And so keep that in mind, guys. Seer finally has a proper way to secure range creeps, which he really never had. And you might be asking, well, Speed, he's always had Vacuum. How is that the case? Well, Vacuum, I think, used to do 25 damage. Then it was buffed to 50, if I'm not mistaken. And now it's 100. And so, yeah, you can actually secure creeps with it. So the following items that Seb is going to buy is also a stick and a Quelling Blade. He was considering rushing the bottle, but I think he was afraid the lane was going to be too hard, where he might not be able to get to the bottle in time. So he goes, these 2 in-between items just to secure a couple more creeps. as he pulls off a nice little side pull. And you're going to see that playing Darkseer right now is much less about cutting the wave. Ever since they changed it where you can't just run around like a chicken without its head at their tier 2 and tier 3, you now actually have to play the lane. So things like side pulls to pull the wave back and creep dragging are more important than ever. And, you know, it's just kind of how you play any other offlaner. And really the main thing I love about Darkseer right now is his simplicity. Once you get level 2 Ion Shell, you kind of just want to start Ion Shelling the wave and your own hero to the point where you can bully out the safe laner and shove it in. And that's sort of your game plan. Also, as your second item, you want to pick up a bottle, and this just gives you more Ion Shells. Soul Ring is more expensive than ever. It's 815 gold, which is honestly a ton. It doesn't give HP regen, so frankly, it's very difficult to use. You pop the Soul Ring and then have no HP. It kind of just doesn't work. And therefore, I think the bottle is a much better option right now. Now, the main thing that's difficult for me to teach within this video that is very important, but it's something you have to focus on, is kind of just how you manage your HP and how you manage your Ion Shells. So it's very important that, you know, you adapt it to the lane. Let's say they have a CM. Maybe you need to Ion Shell heroes more so that she can't just frostbite the creeps. Or, you know, if they have an Oracle, maybe you need to wait for him to use his Q, or you need to go for a lane swap. Darkseer has a lot of weird matchups and a lot of weird scenarios, so just make sure you think about them, you know, before your game even starts. And now let's see the first kill of the lane, and this is why Darkseer's Vacuum is so good, and I really do believe that it's a big mistake to skip it. I was watching a high immortal player play Darkseer recently, and they skipped the Vacuum, and I feel like you just lose this early game of value of being able to do this. Right? They get kinetic fielded, but it doesn't matter, because he can just pull the guy back in. And that's 100 damage and at least double the right clicks that he would have gotten off. And because of that, they also don't have to overcommit for the kill. So unless your lane is very difficult and you know you'll never be able to actually get any kills, take the Vacuum. At the 5-minute mark, it's very important that you go refill your bottle. If you don't do this and you aren't able to get the bottle charges and that rune at minute 5, your game will be basically an absolute disaster and you're going to have to surge back to base. So make sure you do your best to, you know, get that rune and get that sustain. And finally, the last thing I want to mention about the lane, as I know I've been harping on it for a while, I just think it's so important for Darkseer, is that it is very important that your position 4 gives you the majority of the XP. Do not let your position 4, or if you're position 4 playing with a Darkseer, do not sap the XP. If someone is sapping your XP, please tell them, hey man, I really need XP on this hero. Darkseer needs to be the same level or ahead of the safe laner in the lane, and at least needs to be, right? If he falls behind, you can still cut waves and come back, but it's very important that you get given solo XP. Now, next thing, 6 minutes in here, he goes back to base. Guys, please go back to base as Darkseer. I mean this. With this bottle build and the help of Surge, what you want to do is just push out the lane, and then if you're completely out of bottle charges and completely out of mana, go back to base. It's gonna be how you just stay high on mana and consistently go for kills. The next quick thing to note about Darkseer is that you want to skip your ultimate at level 6 and just start putting points in Surge. Your ultimate is relatively underwhelming in the early game and it costs way too much mana. It's 125, which is not terrible. You do want to take it typically around level 9, level 10, but definitely do not take it at 6. It's not that valuable unless you think you can literally secure a kill with it in the moment. Like you hit level 6 and you're like, oh, the wall would get me the kill. You know, in those scenarios, maybe that's okay. Now at the 10-minute mark, we're going to see Seb taking some stacks here. Darkseer is a really good hero to actually get your team some neutral items, which in this case ends up being a Royal Jelly. Now, of course, he's going to eat one for himself. You got to be that greedy boy. If he doesn't, I'd be absolutely shocked as he eats one. And then once again, back to base. You can kind of see the pattern, guys, and I love this pattern. It allows them to be really efficient and constantly be in fighting shape, because the biggest issue I see with most Darkseer players is they're always out of mana or like half health because of their Soul Ring. And then a fight breaks out, and they can't really participate properly. So what Seb does is he walks back to base after pushing the lane, or he jungles the triangle, and that's good, right? The reason why that's good is because it's close to the base. Also, make sure when you TP in, you just shell anyone or anything. It's very important to do. You know, you just want to always save as much mana as possible on this hero, and yeah, just do that. And you can see the shell in combination with the Pango is ridiculous. That damage is honestly insane, and this is kind of where the hero starts taking off. You want to pick it with these heroes that can utilize the shell. Let's look at his team, right? The Radiant. Number 1, Ember Spirit. Arguably, in my opinion, the best user of Ion Shell in the early game. There's not a lot of heroes that can use it as efficiently as Ember. I mean, he's just known for staying on top of heroes in the early game, right? When he's tanky enough to do that, especially if they max out Flame Guard, right? This is the perfect build for the Ion Shell. I love it, right? Not going to play around the Sleight of Fist, going to get in your face with the Flame Guard and Chains. And with the help of an Ion Shell, this Ember Spirit is going to kill anyone he wants besides the Lifestealer. He can kill the Lifestealer after he commits rage, but that's a bit of a harder kill. And on top of that, we see the Spectre. Actually, even Phoenix is pretty good. You know, you could vacuum people away from the egg, which is better than you would think. But mostly really is the pure fact that you can give your Spectre, a hero that can lack damage in the early game, and your Ember, a hero that is good at staying on top of people in the early game, a lot of extra damage. The next thing to note is my overall idea on how the offlane should be played in this patch. I've been seeing more and more offlaners sort of just sit in their lane. In my opinion, it's very uncommon to actually see people ganking nowadays as an offlaner. It doesn't happen, yes. It depends on your hero, depends on your game state. With this Spectre though, what I really like is when you force the rotations away from the Spectre. Do you see what Seb's been doing here? I'll quickly rewind so you can kind of get the picture of what I'm saying. So in this first scenario here, he's just going to run at the Night Stalker. Nearly actually gets the kill with the help of the vacuum. Unfortunately, the Lifestealer made an insane play to save him, but nonetheless, he's going to be able to drag the attention and force the Lifestealer TP. Then, a minute later, we're going to see him do the same thing with the help of the Ember. They're going to force rotations top, force out a pretty nice fight, right? Ion shelling every hero that can use it, ion shelling up the Pango as well. You can see the amount of damage that's just coming out from the shells. They're trying to go on this Pango, but they're going to get punished because of it. And yeah, the Ember is just doing way too much damage. Even the Spectre comes in and he instantly shells him. And that's when you can tell Seb knows exactly who needs to be shelled this game. He's thought about it already, and that allows him to pick up a huge kill onto this top net worth Lifestealer. After a pickup of the mech, he's going to go back to base once again to refill his bottle, TP bottom, and continue to farm. It's very important to not look at Darkseer as this total brawler. By all means, you're good at fighting in the early game, especially when you get this first, big item, which is the mechanism. By the way, guys, I didn't mention, but he has Arcane Boots, a wand, and Bassi. Your hero needs mana. Can't stress that enough. And yes, Windlace is good on Darkseer. Reason being is because your hero, Surge doesn't actually cap your movement speed. In fact, it gets rid of the cap and it gives you bonus movement speed. So it's still really good to have a Windlace just in general. You can even Surge other teammates as well then, which is great. On top of that, as I was saying, make sure you're farming a lot on Darkseer, push in lanes, and then go to the fights. You see what he did here? This is the best way to get farmed on Darkseer. Throw up a shell on a wave, just yeet it onto the melee creep that you know will not take the aggro. Do you see how Seb throws it up onto the left side creep that won't take the aggro immediately? This is very important, it's just one of those things that's going to go a long way if you do it multiple times in a row. Never put the shell on the first creep of the wave. And because of that, he can now show up to the mid fight, push in bottom and get farmed, and, shell up this god tier Ember Spirit who's going to snowball the game for him. Now the fight ends up breaking down and you can once again see the same thing come out from Seb here. And this is what you want to do over and over again, constantly just ion shelling up the melee heroes. Sees, okay, my team is fighting, unfortunately I can't be there. This is how it goes. You can't be at every single fight, guys. Sometimes your team is going to make bad decisions. They're going to fight without you. But it is very important you use your maxed out Surge and you use your maxed out Ion Shell to actually push in the lanes. If you don't, you're losing the large portion of this hero's viability. It's toolkit, which is split farming. There's really no better hero at doing this than Darkseer. So these next two engagements are really good displays of, just Darkseer and how powerful he actually is. So as he runs into this fight here, it's already on a pretty good note. They were able to kill off the Night Stalker. Unfortunately, they did have to trade their Phoenix for it. But let's see how he plays this fight. So the first thing he's going to do is make sure he stays out of vision to start the fight. That's very important. Anytime you're playing any sort of initiator that has an AoE spell, if you can stay on the outside of the fight, it's going to allow you to get off a big ulti. Big combo in this case. And for Darkseer, you don't want to stay in the back the entire fight, right? So he's going to start off by on-shelling his Ember Spirit, right? That's the main priority. It's just such an integral part of this combo. And then what he's going to do is have a little bit of patience. He doesn't want to get jumped right away. And because of this patience, he's able to get a really nice vac wall off on the 2. It's going to nearly set up for a kill onto the Quap. It forces out a very bad leap from the Mirana. And it's even able to actually tank up the arrow for the Ember Spirit. Funny enough, the Ember Spirit got Yules, but the Lifesteal Illusion was able to tank up the arrow. And now, right here is the greatest part about Darkseer. Once you've initiated and you've gotten your combo off, people are going to start to try to kill you, right? Because you're often going to be somewhat in the front line after you cast your combo. But the problem is, most carries can't. Especially if you go this Greaves, they just can't kill you. You have way too much regen. You constantly have this low cooldown mech that is, frankly, way too good in my opinion. Greaves is in a really good spot, I believe, this patch, which is part of the reason why Darkseer is so good, and the enemy team completely gets overrun. I mean, none of his teammates are even low. Pango's not low, Ember's not low, he's not low. You just provide so much sustain and the ability to kite away. And we see another example of that right here. Lifestealer typically can man up to this Spectre pretty well, but with the help of the Shell and a bit of teammates, he has to run away. Also, the extra speed from Surge is going to allow him to catch up a great Vacuum on the 2, forces the Quap into a very awkward position. And this is why Vacuum is such a cool spell. It plays like a mental trick on any ranged hero. What they do is they kind of panic and they're like, oh, I'm out of position, I got vacuumed. And then they have to run away and panic. It's really, really bad for these heroes like Quap. Even if they have a blink, you'd be like, oh, when they just blink out of it? Yeah, but then they have to commit blink defensively and they're going to be completely disorientated. You'd be surprised. And, once again, the Night Stalker going on Seb, but it's just a bad decision. People try to go on you because you're this little small guy who sits in the front line, but you just don't really die as long as you go these items. He even picks up a Force Staff, which is really good against Night Stalker, great against the Lifestealer as well, and it's a great option on Darkseer against these sort of heroes. And as his third item, Seb actually goes Octarine Core. I mean, to be fair, it makes you extremely tanky. You obviously regen a ton from Ion Shell, gives you a lot of health and 10% magic resist. And, you have a lot of active spells. It makes sense. 25% CDR on all of these spells is just really good, so it makes sense. It also works on your Greaves and your Force Staff. Taking 10 seconds of cooldown off of your Greaves sounds pretty good to me. And so yeah, it's kind of a cool item build. I also think Octarine is a really good item. It used to be completely useless, but now it's pretty good on a lot of these spellcasters. And before we wrap up the video, guys, remember, no matter what time the game is, put Ion Shells on side lane creeps. Now, of course, that can apply to the mid as well, but primarily, especially in pubs, you're just going to want to consistently Ion Shell the side lanes. It's going to do a lot more than you think. In this example here, it gets Seb 2 CS, shoves in the wave, and yeah, allows them to eventually push top in if they want to. It also is going to give you a lot of vision over time, and it's just such a good habit to get into. It's really good on every hero, but you can see why it's particularly good on Darkseer. And now to end off the game, we have the final fight as he gets Yules comboed by this Mirana, but it's not nearly enough, and the reason being is because he's so tanky. His items just allow him to stay alive, and this is the key to Darkseer. The Force Staff is so good against Crippling Fear, because you can't actually Greaves off Crippling Fear. It's the reason why Night Stalker can be pretty good against Greaves Spires. But with the Force Staff, it's not a problem. He's able to disengage for long enough to the point where he can get out. The enemy team completely overcommits on the egg. Eventually, he'll get off a vacuum. They're committing absolutely everything on him. And with the Ion Shell, he just barely lives. And they go all in on this Darkseer because they know if they don't, they're all going to get vacuumed into a wall and the fight will end right there. So they try to pick up the kill. It doesn't work out. And yeah, that's why Darkseer is just so crazy right now. He kind of acts as this buff to all these top tier meta high tempo heroes. I mean, just to list a couple, we have Quap, we have Ember, Storm, Spectre, Animage, even someone like Underlord. If you're going to play that Underlord mid, Bloodseeker, the best hero of the patch. And most importantly, Venomancer jungle. If you pick Darkseer with Veno jungles it up, Darkseer pushes in some waves, it's a free win. I swear, it's a free win. You hit that little vacuum into, Veno ulti combo, bada bing, bada boom, free win. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Before you leave, just want to say a quick message. If you're trying to get better at Dota or you just enjoyed that video, I know this is pretty general, and you're going to hear this quite a bit from me. But I recommend you sign up to GameLeap.com. Why? Because I put a lot of effort into the content over there, and generally the effort I do there is different from the content you're going to see here on YouTube. It is different. In fact, I usually go a lot more in depth on topics or into niche topics that help you get to the next level even faster. Because on YouTube, I often have to keep it more mainstream. And that's even why I'm putting it at the end of this YouTube video. That's why this is at the end, because a lot of people just watch 5 minutes, they skip through just for like the dopamine spike. But if you are interested in actually getting better at Dota, I recommend you go to the description down below, get your discount right now by clicking the link, sign up, use the discount code that you're going to see there, and I hope to see you there right now. So click it, and yeah, thanks for watching.